Welcome to the new dark ages. You believe you are free because you can choose between 100 different brands of coffee and 1,000 different movies on a screen. You believe you are sovereign because you have a vote and a voice on a platform. You are mistaken. The average human being in the 21st century is not an individual. They are a biological asset owned by an algorithmic empire. Your desires are not yours. They were programmed by a marketing department. Your anger is not yours. It was triggered by an engagement algorithm. Your dreams are just the pre-packaged fantasies sold to you to keep you productive and compliant. You are living in a state of cognitive serfdom. The matrix does not need chains to hold you. It only needs your attention. As long as you are reacting to the noise, as long as you are vibrating at the frequency of the crowd, you are a subject. You are a battery powering a system that does not know your name and would not care if you vanished tomorrow. The architect of fate knows that the first step toward true power is not the accumulation of money, but the reclamation of the mind. But here is the paradox that the poor and spiritual will never understand. In a world built on digital manipulation, you cannot have cognitive liberty without massive material weight. We earn the hundreds of millions to buy the firewall of the soul. We demand the luxury, the silence, and the high-performance reality not to have more, but to be unhackable.
In this episode, we will deconstruct the internal algorithm. We will learn how to use wealth to buy back our neurochemistry, how to use the sanctuary to filter the static, and how to become the only thing the matrix fears, a sovereign thinker. Let us look at the high-performance machine through the lens of neurobiology. Why do we obsess over the V12 engine? Why do we spend $250,000 on a piece of sculpted aluminum and carbon fiber? The critic says it is vanity. The architect knows it is neurological calibration. The average person's nervous system is cheap. It is jittery, reactive, and easily overwhelmed. They drive cars that feel disconnected. They live in environments that are noisy, and they consume information that is fragmented. This creates a low-resolution mind. They cannot see the big picture because their internal hardware is too slow to process the data of destiny. Wealth is the upgrade of the internal processor. When you sit in a masterpiece of engineering, your nervous system is forced to expand. When you lead a machine that can move at 200 miles per hour with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, your brain enters a state of high-velocity stillness.
The V12 is a mechanical mantra. The vibration of the engine at 8,000 RPMs is a frequency that demands total presence. You cannot be distracted when you are commanding that much power. You cannot be average when the machine requires excellence just to function. We buy the car to kill the distraction. By surrounding ourselves with perfection, we are telling our subconscious that average is an alien concept. We are training our neurons to recognize only the highest standards of execution. The non-materialist seeks wealth to buy a high-resolution life. We want the 8K reality. We want the world where every detail is sharp, every movement is intentional, and every moment is backed by the weight of massive capital. If your environment is low standard, your thoughts will be low standard. We get rich to ensure that our biological hardware is never limited by our material software.
Why do we build the sanctuary on the hill?
Why do we demand the 20-foot ceilings and the 100-acre views? It is for the architecture of the filter. The modern world is an information smog. It is a constant bombardment of small-minded static. Every time you walk down a city street, every time you enter a public space, you are breathing in the anxiety of the masses. You are being vibrated by their fears, their petty jealousies, and their desperate need for validation. Wealth is the social and energetic air purifier. The architect earns the millions to buy distance. Space is the only thing that can protect the internal algorithm. When you have 100 acres of silence, you are creating a neural buffer zone. You are ensuring that the only thoughts in your head are the ones you invited there. We don't buy the mansion to hide. We buy it to incubate greatness. High ceilings encourage abstract thinking. Vast horizons encourage long-term planning. Minimalist architecture encourages strategic clarity. The average person is neurochemically polluted. Their brain is a trash heap of other people's opinions. But the sovereign lives in a clean room of consciousness. We get rich to buy the right to be bored. Because in the void of boredom, the genius wakes up. In the silence of the sanctuary, the internal algorithm begins to write itself. You stop reacting to the world's code and start authoring your own.
The sanctuary is not a house. It is a cognitive laboratory. And in the 21st century, a laboratory of the soul costs millions. Let us speak of the only true currency in the universe: attention. Money, gold, real estate, these are just placeholders for human attention. The person who controls the attention of the world controls the world. But more importantly, the person who controls their own attention controls their fate. The matrix is an attention predator. It wants your focus fragmented. It wants you looking at 1,000 things for 1 second each. It wants you in a state of continuous partial attention. Why? Because a fragmented mind cannot build an empire. A fragmented mind cannot see the invisible strings of power. Wealth is the defense of the deep focus. The architect earns the wealth to buy back their cognitive sovereignty. We get rich so we can afford to spend 3 months thinking about a single problem. We get rich so we can afford to ignore the news, the trends, and the social obligations that steal the time of the average man. Most people are attention beggars. They post on social media because they are hungry for the dopamine of the like. They are slaves to the algorithm. The sovereign is self-sustaining.
We buy the high life to satisfy the ego's base needs so that the intellect can finally get to work. We don't need the world to tell us we are great. The V12 in the garage and the stone fortress on the hill are the internal confirmations that allow us to stay silent. We buy the luxury to kill the hunger for validation. When your material reality is at the zenith, you no longer care about status in the eyes of the crowd. You are free to focus 100% of your attention on the master game.
The non-materialist seeks wealth because deep focus requires a high-cost environment. You cannot think like a god if you are worried about the rent. We are entering the era of digital feudalism. The tech giants are the new lords, the data is the new land, and you are the serf tilling the digital fields for likes while they harvest your soul. Wealth is the global exit strategy. The sovereign earns the millions to buy the right to be analog. The average person is forced to be digital. They need the apps to survive, the platforms to communicate, and the devices to work. They are tethered to the matrix 24 hours a day. The elite are going ghost. We get rich to buy the offline luxury. We want the house that isn't smart. We want the car that doesn't have a black box. We want the communication that happens face to face in a room that is shielded from the digital ears of the world. We buy the $10 million estate to create a digital dead zone.
We want a place where the algorithms can't find us, where our thoughts are not being fed into a machine to predict our next move. We want the mystery of the unknown self. The materialist buys the latest gadget to feel connected. The architect buys the old world wisdom to stay disconnected. We value the physical book, the handwritten letter, and the silent walk. We use our wealth to build a human buffer. We hire people to handle the digital noise so that we can remain in the original reality. This is the ultimate non-materialist flex, using the highest level of technology to afford a life that is completely free of it. In the matrix, you are drowning in information, but you are starving for wisdom. Information is cheap, it is noisy, it is temporary. Wisdom is expensive, it is silent, it is eternal. Wealth is the filter of information. The average person consumes raw data. They read the same news, watch the same videos, and listen to the same opinions as everyone else. This makes them average. You cannot have uncommon results with common inputs. The architect earns the wealth to buy elite inputs. We get rich to buy the time of the masters. We want the private mentors, the world-class advisors, and the access to the hidden libraries of power. We don't want information. We want synthesized intelligence. We buy the high life to stay in the state of mind where we can think in patterns.
When you live in a high-standard environment, you start to see the world as a series of architectural structures rather than random events. You stop seeing the news and start seeing the currents of history. Money is the magnifying glass of the intellect. It allows you to see the small moves that create big realities. It allows you to see the lie before the crowd realizes they've been told it. The non-materialist seeks wealth to buy the right to be right. In the matrix, truth is decided by the majority. In the sovereign world, truth is decided by the result, and results require capital. The matrix wants you to distrust your intuition. It wants you to rely on data, experts, and studies. It wants you to be a rational slave. The architect knows that intuition is the internal algorithm of the spirit. It is your subconscious mind processing 1 billion variables in a millisecond. But here is the truth. Intuition only works when the nervous system is calm. If you are stressed, if you are broke, if you are vibrating at the frequency of survival, your intuition is broken. It is replaced by fear. Wealth is the calibration of the internal compass. We get rich to buy the safety required for the intuition to speak. When you sit in your $10 million sanctuary,
when your family is secure for 3 generations, when the V12 in the garage is paid for, the survival voice finally shuts up. And in that silence, the sovereign voice begins to whisper.
This is the non-materialist reason for the excessive wealth. We want to reach the point where we can trust ourselves completely. We want to be so materially settled that we can afford to be spiritually wild. The elite don't make decisions based on spreadsheets. They make decisions based on resonance. They feel the move before they make it. We buy the luxury to act as a psychological anchor. It reminds us that we are the architects, not the objects. It gives us the confidence to ignore the data and follow the will. Finally, we speak of choice. The average person has preferences, but they rarely have choices. They choose between the options the system gives them. They choose the best job available, the best house they can afford, the best life that is realistic. The sovereign designs the options. Wealth is the architecture of the possible. We earn the hundreds of millions to reach the level where we no longer ask, "What can I do?" but "What shall I create?" The high life is the stage upon which we perform our acts of creation. The Ferrari is the brush. The mansion is the canvas. The wealth is the light. We don't buy these things to live in luxury. We buy them to demonstrate mastery over matter. The architect of fate realizes that the ultimate goal of the internal algorithm is to move from being to creating.
We want to be the ones who write the code for the next generation. We want to be the ones who establish the standards that the world will follow for the next century. We get rich to buy back our God complex. Not the ego-driven God complex of the tyrant, but the creative God complex of the architect. The belief that we have the right and the responsibility to shape reality according to our vision.